Guys, just before I get into this review, I gotta tell you there's gonna be spoilers. There's a lot of things I gotta go over. If you haven't played the game, and you do intend to play the game, I suggest you probably don't watch this. Maybe click on the watch later, play the game, come back. I don't want to spoil anything, but I do have to talk about spoilers. Unlike most people, I tend to take my time with game reviews. It has nothing to do with the fact that I don't buy games when they're brand new. I wait until they're on sale. But otherwise, I do take a lot of time to actually formulate my thoughts on a game. Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of these games that it really took me a long time. Like, I've been playing this game for a couple months on and off now, and truthfully, I have mixed feelings. Plenty and plenty of mixed feelings. It took me so long to do this review because I couldn't put my thoughts in order, and I've thrown out the script. There's no script for this. This is off the cuff. This is pure stream of thought. I have like 10 notes that like things that I'm going over to just like keep me kind of on track. To be honest, I think I'm gonna need a little bit of help with this here, so let's just do a little bit of this. Gotta get my Deadeye refilled, man. Whew. Alright, let's do this.
You got some money for me, boy? I've seen your name in our ledger.
You're a wanted man, Mr. Morgan.
Maybe when your mother's finished mourning your father, I'll keep her in black on your behalf. We got lawmen in 3 different states after us. They chased us from the west, they chased us over the mountains.
We'll need an extra gun.
This place ain't no such thing as civilized.
You're the only one of these fools that I trust.
Where's our money?
Do you have my bag?
Always, Dutch. Okay, here we go.
Now, before I get started, let me just say that I love this game, okay? I absolutely love this game. Look at how many hours I've put in, okay? This is not a joke. I've put in the time. I've done my time, and I am perfectly qualified to give a accurate and it's biased. It's a biased review. Now, everything in this game, from the world to the characters and the performance capture work by the actors, the random encounters, the weather, everything in this is pretty damn outstanding. And I really can't say too much negative about the production of this game. It's all done so beautifully. Red Dead Redemption 2 has won a ton of awards, and frankly, most of them are very well deserved. Overall, the main story I fucking love. I've put in this many hours. I'm a fan of the game. So despite all their awards and the amount of time that I've put into this game, I do have some annoyances that I'm about to go over now. So Rockstar, I'm sorry. I love you, but it's gotta be said. Again, as far as the story, campaign was crisp, beautiful, flowed well. The pacing, some people complained that it was a little slow, but for me, the pacing was fucking perfect. You could have dragged it out longer. You could have dragged it out for 70, 80 hours, and I would have been fine with it. My main complaints are probably that, as far as mechanics, everything seemed very surface level. There wasn't very much depth to the camp mechanics. So first things first, let's go over the camp system. So the camp system is a very interesting mechanic that I'm really happy they introduced. I only wish it was a little bit more fleshed out. There seems to be a kind of trend with this game where all of these really interesting mechanics are kind of just surface level. By that I mean that, for example, in the camp you have food, ammo, and medicine carts that you can purchase upgrades for. They'll give you better supplies. You can also bring in food for the camp, which will help keep your camp fed. The problem is that it's nearly impossible to not keep your camp fed. There have been times where just throughout missions, I'm bringing food to the camp. If I want to upgrade, it restocks everything. It's just very surface level. It didn't seem like it really mattered in the end. And that includes for the health items and the ammunition, because really, like, you don't really need that much ammo. As long as you're picking up ammo off of enemies, which you don't have to loot them. And I'll get to the looting a little bit later, because I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. Another feature in the camp system is the upgrades, which, again, are a really great idea, but some of the pricing just seems a little wacky to me. For example, once you get to Chapter 3, it unlocks the ability to purchase a boat for your camp. The price of the boat is about $450. So okay, that's fine, $450. Problem is that later on in the game, based on the game's own economy, again, spoiler alert, once you get to the Epilogue, and you're purchasing land for John Marston and his family, the lease, to own a plot of land large enough for a ranch is $420-ish. It's this much. The pricing on this stuff doesn't really make sense to me. It's not really something you pick up on your first playthrough, but it really bothered me. Oh, and I forgot to mention that one of the first missions in Chapter 3, you can literally steal a boat.
We could keep the boat not too far back to camp from here.
Good idea. Could be useful.
So this upgrade ends up being kind of pointless. Oh, also the boats just randomly disappear at times, so hope you don't get stranded on an island. Another example for the camp is the horse pen, whatever it is. It's essentially a bunch of wooden posts. And when you purchase this, or when it first becomes available, you're in the middle of a forest. And it costs $300 for some wooden posts. So okay, I get that I'm trying to be immersed in the story, but I'm in a forest. I'll go pick up the posts myself. I'll do it. So when you purchase this upgrade, you have the ability to summon your horses from the stables that are scattered around the whole map. So $300 for some wooden posts and for someone to go pick up your horse. Now, every time I come to the camp, it seems to be filled with people just kind of milling around. So this particular upgrade really bothered me, because why am I paying $300 for wooden posts and for someone to go pick up my fucking horse when there's literally wood all around me and people all around me doing nothing? Anyways, while there are plenty of upgrades for the camp, most of them seem surface level or just visual. Some of them aren't even visual, and they don't seem to do anything mechanically either. I understand you guys tried to make this the most universal appeal, so most of those in-depth mechanics would have been a little bit too much for a lot of people. I wish you guys had made a survival mode or a hard mode, just so that people like me who really, really enjoy those kinds of mechanics could really dive into them. You know, like in Fallout New Vegas, they have you right at the start, you click survival mode, it makes things difficult, you have to provide more supplies for your camp maybe, you know, ammo won't be as readily available, perhaps you don't get as much health items off of enemies that you loot. I apologize if this is all over the place. It's all stream of thought. I don't know how this is going to be edited together. I'm doing my best, but like, ugh.
We ain't leaving till this bag's full.
Now the game's economy is kind of just linked to the previous topic. It starts you off making, you know, reasonable amounts of money. Rob a carriage here, make $50, you know, hold up some people on a train, make a couple $100, and everything's rolling just fine. There is a point in the main campaign, I do believe it's in Chapter 3, where you go and you rob a bank. Freaking exciting, right? It's a great, great mission, and I love it. However, by the end of it, you end up walking away with thousands of dollars. I had already been playing the game for, you know, 20, 30 hours at this point. I'd been earning money any way I could. I'd been buying all the upgrades that I could. Bought the best horse that I could. I had been spending my money, and I still had some left over. And then I do this mission where I get thousands of dollars, and all of a sudden, I have nothing to spend it on. And, you know, as you go through the game, more things will unlock. You know, more weapons, better horses, more camp upgrades. But it's the fact that you're role-playing a cowboy, a broke cowboy on the run, trying to earn money so that you can escape to wherever, and you're running around with thousands of dollars in your pocket. And I mean, sure, you can go and waste your money on customizing weapons and buy all the clothes you can find and stock up fully on all of your supplies, but it's just, I don't know. It just seemed a little strange to me that the economy would get broken so easily and so early in the game. And people are constantly reminding you.
We just need money.
It's just kind of hard to pretend that you're a strapped-for-cash outlaw on the run when you literally have enough money to buy half a county in your pocket. Now, there's a lot of little things that I could go over. A lot of little things, for example, mechanics that during the story, the mechanics are one way, and then while you're in free roam, the mechanics are different. For example, there's a mission where you have to break someone out of prison, and you're told to shoot an arrow at a lantern, and that lantern explodes, and people go, "Fire! We got a fire near the ammo!" So, okay, that's really cool mechanic. I go wandering through the forest, I see a camp of enemies. I'm trying to sneak through and sneak up on them and see if I can kill them. I shoot a lantern with an arrow. They all immediately know where I am and start shooting at me, despite the fact that I'm hiding behind a tree in the middle of the night. Anyways, right, I'm not going into the mechanics. There's lots of little things I could nitpick. I don't have the time or the patience to go over them all. Oh fuck. Do I have time or patience? I don't think people could be coming and going any more than they are now. I know I have more to say, but I keep getting thrown off. So another thing that I want to touch on really briefly, even though there's a lot to say about it, is the wanted system. I'm not going to go into too much detail other than to say it's kind of broken. I like that you can cover your face and it keeps you from being identified. However, there seems to be some broken mechanics surrounding this feature. For example, I robbed a train out in the middle of nowhere. I was up on a mountain. There was no roads nearby. There was no houses or homes or towns. I rob the train, I get on, I kill all the witnesses, and yet somehow, after a set amount of time, the police just know that the train's being robbed. You know, that I could at least rationalize away by saying, it didn't make it to the next station in time, so the police knew something was up. But when they can get there within a minute, sometimes even quicker, of when the crime's being reported, even though you're up on a mountain in the middle of nowhere, something about that just doesn't seem right. This does happen in other circumstances as well. Maybe you've stumbled across a rival gang's hideout, and after taking everybody out or completing the mission, then all of a sudden the police are just aware of the crime, and they're just nearby. I've heard it said before, I can't remember where, it would be nice if the police that are out in the wilds, out in the places and spaces between the towns, if they had a set route that they took, so that you could kind of map out the police routes and schedules. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail with this. The wanted system just is another feature that kind of seemed a little, I don't want to say broken, but just surface level. Maybe it was not fleshed out as well as it could have been. I don't know. We'll leave it at that. We'll move on. Okay, so next topic is the epilogue. Now, as much as I love the epilogue, I kind of wish that the epilogue itself had been DLC, and that for the epilogue, something else had been done. I was very disappointed to see, I gotta say, this is a major spoiler. At the end of chapter 6, whatever the last chapter is before the epilogue, I was so disappointed in the lack of send-off for Arthur. You give us 50 or 60 hours of story-ish, and then Arthur's send-off is like 20 seconds? He gets 20 seconds? There's no, people finding him, burying him, a service, nothing. Some kind of outro, some kind of conclusion. I know that they did it at the end of the epilogue, and it showed Arthur's grave, and, it shows all, again, major spoilers. I really, that bugged the shit out of me. After that moment, Arthur gets 20 seconds of a sad song and some visuals, and then it's straight into John Marston. 8 years later, I was appalled. Don't get me wrong, I love John Marston, I like Abigail, I like Jack. I would love that story. I really am glad that we got to see that story of the time between Red Dead Redemption 2 and 1 to give a bit more of a bridge between the two games. However, again, I wish this was DLC. So I love John Marston's story. It needed to be DLC. That was a separate, I get that was an essential story that a lot of people really wanted to see, but like, hey, from a financial standpoint, had you released that as DLC, that would have been more money in your pocket, and you could have done something different with the epilogue. For the epilogue, I really feel like we should have followed Sadie or Charles. I feel like they each could have gotten an epilogue chapter. At the end of both chapters, it has them meeting up with each other, and then perhaps maybe the last couple missions are them meeting up with John. Now, I'm not going to get into the mechanics of the epilogue, because what's the point? The epilogue is just there for the story. You're not actually supposed to have fun farming. Let me just say that after a full day's work, you get $8 for trading in your goods. So, like, what's the... Especially after you earn so much money at the end of the epilogue, like, what's the point? I know you guys are trying to push people into the online, and I understand that, because that's, you know, that's a way for you to keep the money flowing for this game while you produce other games. I'm not judging you for that. I think it's actually a really smart financial decision. And you know, that's what you've done so far, and it's worked out great. Grand Theft Auto 5 is fantastic. Red Dead Redemption 2 is fantastic for the most part. But now, Rockstar has been very successful with their online properties so far. Grand Theft Auto 5 been one of the longest running games online. It has insane numbers, insane sales. It's still very popular. Now, I know that you guys have had this policy of not making DLC for your games for at least the past couple games, but hear me out. Let me try and lobby for the other side here, because I really don't think that Red Dead's atmosphere or mechanics work well in the online. I'm sure there are lots of people who are very big fans of the Red Dead Online, and I don't think that they should ignore Red Dead Online. But I am infuriated by the fact that this game that has won so many awards for story and design and all of these fucking awards, they decided very early on not to do any DLC for the story. They did the same thing with Grand Theft Auto 5, and I'm sure they're going to do the same thing with Grand Theft Auto 6, and probably Red Dead Redemption 3, or whatever Red Dead is next. It's just not cool, man. I understand online is where you make your money. However, Red Dead Online has not been as popular, the numbers are not great, the community has not been happy, and as much as I love the fact that you guys are still technically working on Red Dead content, it is not the content that I want. And apparently it's not the content that a lot of people want. A little note here, only 40% of the players on Steam actually finished the online tutorial, so that's telling me that 60% of players only want to play the campaign. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 online still has some content. I don't know what goes into making a game. I can't tell you how easy this would be, but in my mind, if it's already been put on the online version, it shouldn't be too hard to adapt to the single player. Perhaps you could take these roles like Bounty Hunter, Trader, Collector, Moonshiner, Naturalist, and adapt them to the solo campaign. Now, I understand the end of the epilogue is more or less the start of Red Dead Redemption 1. You could make some kind of something post-epilogue where you're not playing as John Marston, where you're playing as perhaps Sadie Adler or Charles Smith. Maybe it's right after Charles or Sadie leave John's home at the end of the epilogue. I'm not a story writer. However, it should be easy enough to adapt these to the single-player campaign. Now, that's just my idea. I don't know what goes into making a video game. It just seems like if it's already on the online version, it should be easy enough to adapt to the single player. And then people like me can get some more single player content. Honestly, if you guys want my opinion, I wouldn't even put it at the end of the epilogue. I would stuff it in between the end of the main campaign and the epilogue. That way, you can play as Sadie or as Charles. It doesn't affect the epilogue at all. And then, that's just its own separate chapter before leading into the John Marston chapters, right? That would give you the opportunity to give Arthur a little bit of a better send-off. Anyways, I'm not going to start talking about Arthur. You guys did him dirty, but that's okay because I love him. And I love your story and I love your game. I'm not a fan of the online, but I love your game. He deserved one hell of a send-off after all the shit he went through. Again, let's just do a little recap here of things that you, Rockstar, could do to increase your sales, and get the population back up on your game. Personally, I think your decision to focus more on the online content instead of story DLC for Red Dead Redemption is probably not the wisest decision. Now, I'm not a businessman, I'm not a video game designer, but I really think that you guys could make a boost to your sales if you adapted the online content to the single player and released it as a fairly inexpensive DLC. If anyone complains about the price, you can always point them to the free online content, which is the exact same. However, for someone like me who does not enjoy the online as much for Red Dead, I believe that this could be a wise business decision. 2, add some kind of survival mode, some kind of hard mode to the campaign so that people like me can play it and have some in-depth mechanics. Take the online content, cram it in between the main campaign and the epilogue, do some story something to make it work. You can do it, I believe. Let us play as Sadie, let us play as Charles, shove it in between the epilogue and the main campaign, give Arthur a bit more of a send-off, give us at least a song. You know, you gave us 20 seconds of a really sad song, play out that whole song. I had like 20 seconds to emotionally let go of Arthur, and then you throw me in with John and his family? I don't even get a choice? I couldn't even pause and save the game. I had to keep playing. Unacceptable. Now that my health, stamina, and Deadeye have depleted again, I think we should call it here. Hopefully I was able to go over most of the ideas I had in my head, with the help of my little notes. And I even had to reference my old script at one point. I guess the moral of the story is, Rockstar, I love ya, I do. I wish that you would reconsider your stance on downloadable content for single player. I get where you're coming from. I wish I could change your mind. Hopefully the numbers and statistics that I've shown so far will help. If not, then maybe my plea. Otherwise, everybody, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Hope you have a wonderful day, night, weekend, whatever it happens to be for you, and I will catch you next time. Peace.
Where must I go?